Are the spiritual practices of the African diaspora in Brazil and the rest of South America witchcraft or some kind of sorcery? Are they disorganized or chaotic practices that have no structure, hierarchy, or enduring traditions? African spiritual practices observed among the African diaspora in Brazil and the rest of South America are clearly religious practices. These religions use rituals just like other mainstream religions. For example, incense burning, prayers, symbols, sacred objects, deities, and spirits are all elements that African traditional religions share with mainstream religions. This detail can help you separate religions from witchcraft or sorcery in your fantasy story. Hello, friends. Today we will look at the African fantasy aesthetics of the African diaspora in South America. While we will focus primarily on Colombia, Venezuela, and Brazil, there are also African diaspora communities in countries such as Mexico, Chile, Argentina, Honduras, Ecuador, Guyana, Suriname, Peru, Paraguay, and others. As I was saying, the African diaspora in South America have different religions, some of which have syncretized with Catholicism, while others have intertwined with native spiritual practices. Religions in mainstream fantasy literature and movies are often represented by temples, priests, monks, and other religious orders that can carry out prayers, preach sermons, and perform rituals in temples. Similarly, the religions of the African diaspora, such as Afro-Brazilian Candomblé, also have priests, priestesses, temples, and moral codes. As a matter of fact, the word Candomblé means house of worship. Just like other religions, there are a number of Candomblé denominations that have slight differences in their beliefs and practices. They are called the nations of Candomblé. Candomblé not only borrowed some Catholic rituals but also switched the names of the Orishas, who are Yoruba deities, with those of Catholic saints. For example, Oshala is depicted as Jesus Christ, Yemaya is depicted as the Virgin Mary, Ogun is depicted as Saint Anthony, and Shango is depicted as Saint Peter. But if you want to use Candomblé as an inspiration for a religion in your fantasy narrative, you need to understand the function of the religious leaders in the Candomblé religion. Unlike a priest in a Catholic church, a Candomblé temple's priest's main function is to act as a channel between the spiritual world and the material world. So, the rituals that allow practitioners to connect with the Orishas through possessions are an essential part of Candomblé. Spirituality is deeply embedded in African religions, and that is evident in the religions of the African diaspora, including those of Afro-Brazilians. Secondly, the supreme being in Candomblé, or Oludumare, or God, is a neutral figure. Of course, practitioners of Candomblé believe Olodumare or Olorun is the ruler of the heavens and creator of everything, but he does not interfere in daily human affairs. That is the job of the Orishas. Orishas are concerned with enforcing certain moral codes that maintain the balance and nurturing life force. Religions surrounding these Orishas are also more concerned about reciprocity and tradition and ancestral obligation. There is no such thing as a greater will or greater purpose for the Creator. Preserving life force is also the main goal of practitioners in Bilongo or Bilongo, which is a general term for the religious practices of Afro-Venezuelans. You can find these mostly in rural areas of coastal Venezuela around areas such as the sub-region of Barlovento. Practitioners or curanderos of the Bilongo religion focus mainly on using herbs and ingredients to heal both physical and spiritual illness. The word Bilongo itself means ingredients for magical use. They use a combination of baths and teas for this purpose, but just like in most religions, they also offer psychological medicine in the form of prayers and soothsaying to heal patients. To do this, they call upon various saints that are syncretized with African deities. Practitioners also use divinations in their rituals. The cult of Maria Leonza, a branch of Bilongo religion, expects aspiring mediums to go through rituals of initiation before they are accepted into the religion. Initiation includes ritual baths in herbal-infused waters and shaving of heads. Initiates lay down with symbols drawn around them and various offerings and paraphernalia laid on them to help them connect with the spiritual world. They offer liquor libation and tobacco smoke to the ancestors and engage in drumming and singing, which induces trance possession. Another Bilongo practice is Chimbanguele, which is a syncretic tradition involving music and dance that is of Congo origin with some West African influence, particularly from the Efik ethnic group. Practitioners of Chimbanguele are also found mostly in the Barlovento area of Venezuela. One of their distinguishing characteristics is that their rituals focus on Saint Benedict of Palermo, who they have syncretized with the Dahomean deity of the sea called Agbe. Other African Venezuelan deities include Malembe, who is the deity of agriculture, Unsasi, who is the saint of thunder and a fierce protector, Obilase, who is the road opener, who is both kind and fierce, among others. Colombia's African diaspora communities do not have defined traditional religions like those of Afro-Brazilians and Afro-Venezuelans. Instead, they have remained in the Catholic faith while maintaining certain African religious practices. For example, there is the Manacillos festival that occurs every Holy Week among the Afro-Venezuelans who live along the Urumangui River. Manacillos is a word that refers to spiritual beings, which makes it a fitting name for a festival that honors the ancestors of Afro-Colombians. The spiritual nature of the Manacillos festival is emphasized in the procession to the cemetery, where the male performers in the procession wear a costume made of burlap sacks and banana leaves adorned with colorful fabric patches. They also wear balsa wood masks that signify that the wearer is no longer a human but a spirit. That is why the performers are called Manacillos. While rituals connected to African spirituality dominate the Manacillos festival, you cannot miss the presence of Catholicism. For example, they say Catholic prayers for the dead that they are honoring. You inherit the role of Manacillo, and there is no age limit to get into the role. This reminds me of the masquerades that take place in West African countries such as Benin and Nigeria. In the masquerades, the costume and mask wearers also represent spirits. Remember that these communities do not believe that evil spirits are inherently evil. Even the so-called evil spirits only do evil stuff when they are wronged or when they are holding a grudge. Descendants of Africans in Venezuela also believe in spirits called Nkisi. They keep wooden figures that represent these spirits in their homes. These figurines are said to be inhabited by powerful Nkisi spirits and are used by people to connect with the spiritual realm. I could not find creatures that are specific to the African diaspora in South America, but you can add creatures that native communities in South America believe in. This is because some native beliefs have been intertwined with the beliefs of the African diaspora in South America. As far as costumes are concerned, I have decided to keep the fantasy worlds restricted to the 18th and 19th century. The fashion for men can vary between the toga-like robes worn by the Maroons of Suriname and the tailored frock coats of Brazilians. Don't forget the loose-fitting, long-sleeved linen shirts and linen trousers, which are appropriate for the hot, humid coastal regions where most Afro-descendant communities reside. They also wear wide-brimmed straw hats. For the women, the fashion varies from full ankle-length cotton skirts paired with white embroidered blouses popular in Brazil to the white blouses with ruffled sleeves paired with long, colorful skirts worn by the Venezuelan women. Play around with the design of these dresses to designate classes or status if you want. You also have head wraps, hats, and 18th to 19th century European-style dresses. Let your imagination run wild. And that is all I have for you today. If there are other elements you feel were left out, feel free to add them at the comment section. I hope you liked the video. If you want to support my channel, you can tip me on Ko-fi or join my Patreon. Please subscribe, like, and leave a comment because it will help with the YouTube algorithm. Goodbye and good luck.